Burberry, Dolce & Gabbana, and DKNY have all attempted to crack one of the fastest growing markets, Islamic fashion. What started off with brands targeting wealthy Muslims with one-off fashion lines for religious occasions has now grown to a global trend for women who prefer to dress conservatively. According to the Pew Research Center, Muslims are the world's fastest growing major religious group. By 2050, it estimates there will be 2.7 billion Muslims worldwide, making up 29.7% of the global population. And when it comes to Islamic or the modest fashion sector, spending is forecast to grow 5% annually to $361 billion by 2023. Turkey is the biggest spender on modest fashion at $28 billion a year, followed by the UAE and Indonesia. But it's not a one-size-fits-all trend. What's popular in Indonesia may not have the same appeal in the Middle East. Well, let's get more now on what's driving the market. Joining me now from London is Alia. She is the founder and chairwoman of the Islamic Fashion and Design Council. Good to have you with us. So let me ask you, first of all, now the Islamic economy is growing and growing fast, from halal food to travel, fashion, and so on. What is Islamic or modest fashion then? And why do you feel the need to build a platform to support this industry?
Well, Islamic fashion is, by the parameters of what they call modest fashion today, it follows the guidelines of coverage that people adhere to in order to practice their faith, the Islamic faith. But there's a strong secondary market as well from the Jewish and the Christian following as well, who have similar practices. And we needed this platform for a long time. This is not a new thing. It's not a passing fancy. It's been around since the beginning of time, and it will be till the end of time. And it's actually surprising that we didn't see a platform like this years ago. And we came along, we saw a need, and it was desperately needed to be filled.
What has helped it grow so fast around the world?
I think what's helped it to get noticed around the world is social media. It's always been growing, Hazem, and that's what's amazing about this industry, is that the opportunity has always been there. We've had a huge consumer market, for a long time, and primarily led by the Muslim global population, which is the fastest growing population in the world. It's indeed a coveted consumer, and finally, this consumer is being noticed and getting a nod from brands like Dolce & Gabbana, DKNY, Victoria Beckham, Tommy Hilfiger, all of them now. Zara has come up with their own Ramadan collection. And really, I think it's because they noticed that on social media there was huge followings wherever you had these Muslim fashionistas or modest fashion influencers who were able to don a great stylish look and yet stay within the parameters of the modesty guidelines that they follow.
Many big names in fashion that you've mentioned there have in the past tried to crack this market but didn't succeed. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I think still there's hits and misses. And I think that purely boils down to not understanding your audience. There's not a huge learning curve, but there is some due diligence required here. It's a completely different mindset. It's a different audience. It's a different consumer behavior. And if the brand can understand that, they will succeed. There were a few of these brands that kind of didn't do it right the first time around. Some of the Ramadan collections that first came out didn't quite get the point, and consumers spoke about that. And there was a lot of chatter on social media where the fashionistas were feeling like they weren't being represented correctly. So remember, there's certain guidelines that need to be respected, and this is a lifelong journey for them. So they're not doing it this season and out next season. If you do get this audience, you've got a consumer for life.
Are there any young Muslim designers and startups that are succeeding in your view, and why?
Well, the young Muslim designers and startups that are succeeding are doing so because they understand this market, and perhaps they are the market as well. The reason I founded and started Islamic Fashion and Design Council is because I felt either misrepresented or not represented or underrepresented. And I initially thought perhaps it might be a good idea to come up with a collection or a line of my own, that would sort of speak to a professional woman who wants to cover and yet remain stylish and elegant, and all the things that you see in our mainstream counterparts, and that was very hard to find. So coming up with a council was important because there was no agency or even a local chamber of commerce that could provide you with the basic information that could guide you in succeeding in this consumer market. And so that's what we did, and it just keeps growing and growing from there.
Alia Khan, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.